Hey guys, welcome back to another review of a Longmire mystery by Craig Johnson. This is the second book in the series, Death Without Company. The title comes from a Basque saying that translates to English, a life without friends means a death without company. If you are unfamiliar, the Basque are a group of, well, they won't like it if you call them Spaniards, but they are from Spain. They are Iberian natives. In fact, their earliest ancestors were on the Iberian Peninsula even before the Romans were. Now, granted, they've gone through a couple of demographic changes since then, but every single conquering force that has come to Iberia in the last 2,000 years has failed to kick out the Basque. They are very stubborn, they are very proud of their identity, and they have dug in, and nobody has been able to beat them. In the last couple of centuries, various Basque groups have emigrated to the United States and settled predominantly in the West. The Mountain West being one such area. I believe there's a Basque Days Festival in northern Nevada, I think Elko. I remember driving back in my long haul days through a small town in near coastal Oregon that proudly had Basque flags as you entered and left the town. The Basque flag kind of looks like the Union Jack, but in Christmas colors. Craig Johnson added a group of Basque to his fictional Wyoming setting. I'm guessing that there are portions of the Basque that settled in real-life Wyoming. And so he included them in Absaroka, and that is significant because the murder victim in this book is a Basque woman. But in addition to her being from that culture, she's got an special connection to somebody who's important in Walt Longmire's life, that of Lucian Connolly, who was Walt's mentor and the sheriff before him. Now, Lucian is a character from both the books and the TV show. He's played by Peter Weller in the show, but his character was a little bit different in the program, and he also had extended family that weren't in the book. But in the books, Lucian was at one time married to a Basque woman named Marie, and she unfortunately is our murder victim for this story. And there are numerous people connected to her that could have had the motive and the means. She was an heiress to an oil inheritance, among other things. There were a couple of other players that came into it. There were estranged siblings of hers, a daughter, as well as her doctor. I think in keeping with my summaries and recaps of these books, I'm not going to spoil the whodunit of it all because I still want you guys to read these books. I will say that the pacing and the unraveling and the revealing of everything going on was done really well against the backdrop of not just this fictional setting, but also numerous relationships in the story. We get an introduction to another one of Walt's deputies, a man named Sizer Batoria, that's his last name, which is an example of a Basque name. Remember how I said that they wouldn't like it if you called them Spaniards? The Basque language is very distinct from Spanish. And while there are some Castilianized words in it, just because there really aren't words for certain things in Euskadi, which is their word for Basque, their language doesn't follow a whole lot of the conventions of other European tongues. In fact, I believe I remember Dr. Joyce Salisbury, in her great courses about Spanish history, mentioned that some Basque words are holdovers from basically like caveman language from before the Romans entered the Iberian Peninsula. But I'm getting out into the weeds. I find the Basque culture to be really intriguing. It was something that I got a little bit of familiarity with back when I was living in Spain, although I never actually got to visit País Vasco proper, the Basque country itself. I was in the East Coast, but I met a bunch of people who were Basque and who had moved to other parts of the country. The fact that they are a very insulated group is important because shortly after Lucian Connolly married Mari Baroja, was this woman's name, her brothers found out, other Bascos found out, and it caused a lot of contention. It got Lucian beat up a couple of times, and while after that he had to kind of keep his relationship with her secret, it still caused him no bit of or no shortage of contention with the local Basque contingent. And now that she's turned up dead in a rest home where Lucian Connolly also happens to live, Walt is especially motivated to get to the bottom of it. This is unlike the cold dish in the sense that he's not reluctant to find the killer. He's just got a hard time narrowing it down to figure out who is especially motivated to go after this woman. I liked the development of the characters in this one. We see a little bit more of the playfulness between Walt and his deputy, Vic Moretti. Their relationship happens in the book as well as it does in the show, although it kind of gets there in a different way. And we see some of the other deputies, like the Ferg and like the aforementioned Sizer Matoria. And I don't think that this is where we're introduced to the character named Double Tough. But you just see the considerations that Walt has for the people around him, because he's kind of the bridge in this multi-generational gap of law enforcement officers. He knows that one of these deputies will eventually want to replace him the way that he replaced Lucian Connolly, and he's still got a very strong relationship with his mentor and with his predecessor, even though they have two very different styles of doing the job. Lucian groomed Walt. Now Walt is grooming one of the other deputies to take his place someday. He doesn't know who, he doesn't know when, and he's learning lessons from not just Lucian's mannerism, but his career and retirement as he tries to figure out who would have taken a shot at the former sheriff's wife and taken her down. So that's a bit of a summary of the problem in Death Without Company and the developments that you get therein. It's a story about love and about legacy as Walt tries to figure out who done it. As per usual, this is going to be the case with all of the Longmire mysteries, a content warning for language and violence. This is not a series that shies away from the hard edge of life that these law enforcement officers end up walking. I don't think it necessarily revels in it, but it is there. So that is a brief summary and a glance back at Longmire Mysteries number 2, Death Without Company. Hey, thank you for watching that. Did you know that I'm also an author? You can check the description for a link to my book, Mr. Friday. It's set in a future where Black Friday is militarized and televised, and the best Friday fighters end up getting sponsors and backing, but it just so happens that the very best of them actually wants to take the holiday down. When he's approached by a couple of other like-minded fighters, he jumps at the chance, and it goes haywire from there. This is a short novella, and it's available in ebook format for just 99 cents. Drive safe. See you out there.